Hey there, everyone. This is Jennifer Deep Stratton, and I am with Joseph Ranseth. Hi, Joseph.
Hello, Jennifer, and everybody listening.
How is everybody out there? Hope you guys are all having fabulous high-ticket sales success stories this week. I wanted to bring you my friend and colleague, Joseph. I met Joseph, a little over a year ago, and I recently listened to an amazing webinar about how to get on the TEDx stage. Okay, so stay tuned because he's going to share some tips and some secrets, and also why it's even relevant if you're not a speaker or if you haven't thought about being on the TEDx stage, why it goes hand in hand with being able to sell high ticket. So, Joseph, what makes you, just give us a taste of what makes you like the guy to talk to about being on the TEDx stage?
Yeah, that's a great question because always you want to know that the person you're listening to knows what they're talking about.
For
So
sure.
for me, I gave a TED Talk a number of years ago, and it completely transformed not only me personally, but just career-wise. It transformed my life so much so that I continue to stay involved with the TED community. So as a professional speaker, I lent my expertise and experience on a speaker selection team, training speakers, doing one-on-one coaching with speakers, and then was just so passionate about it that I became a TEDx event organizer and have done that for a number of years. And last year I went to Geneva, Switzerland for the TED Global, where the best of the ideas were spreading, all converged in this international city. And so to be a part of that, to see the rehearsals and the curation process, and then also for 3 days, 500 TEDx event organizers from around the globe converged to share best practices and to receive training and to collaborate with people from the TED headquarters. And so for me, I've immersed myself in this community in the process because I know that being a part of it, giving TED Talks, these ideas we're spreading can greatly impact our ability to serve. It really can transform the planet. And so for those who are out there that are, mission-driven entrepreneurs that are trying to change people's lives, this is such a powerful tool to do it if done properly. And so I love it.
So that is so awesome, Joseph. So just to recap, number one, you did your own TEDx talk, which is huge. I mean, that in and of itself is a huge accomplishment. But it's not just that you were on TEDx, or not just like some guy that was on TEDx and teaching other people how to be on a TED stage. You, which you didn't mention, you sneaky, is that you are actually a paid keynote speaker. You travel around all over the country, all over the continent, giving talks for money, right? So it's a very special thing. But I know that you're going to talk about this more later on, how being on a TEDx stage is much different than being a speaker, a keynote speaker. But here's the other thing that I love is that you are an event organizer. You're on the speaker selection committee. You train speakers, and you went to Geneva to get trained to have the most extraordinary TEDx events in your own city. So that makes you an expert in my book.
Well, I'd say it makes me passionate, and I love sharing. I've learned a ton through the process, and I'm so passionate about this concept of saying, how do we take an idea and mobilize it into action so that we can, up-level the collective? How do we make the world better? And that's what the TED mission is all about. And that's what the work that I do is all about. So it was a natural fit that I poured energy into it.
That's amazing. So the reason I wanted to bring Joseph to you is because I watched his webinar, which we're going to share the link for towards the end of the video. I watched his video on how to get on the TEDx stage, and I learned so much about speaking, about ideas that I could see it would make a bigger difference for my business, whether or not I even wanted to be on the stage. So whether you're in that place where you want to be on a stage, TEDx stage, speaking, keynote, or just in your business, I think this is a really important video. And if you want to learn more, we'll share at the end how you can listen to Joseph's whole webinar. Okay? Right?
Woo, woo.
Woo!
Let's do it.
Okay. So here's my first question. Why would someone want to be on the TEDx stage?
That's really a great question. And The equivalent I find that, for the TEDx stage is to speakers and mission-driven entrepreneurs, in some cases, as to what Oprah is for some authors. Everybody knows as an author, if your book is on Oprah's show and she says, "I love this book," that it's instantly a bestseller and everyone goes out and buys it. Now, it's not necessarily quite that extreme for everyone who gets on the TEDx stage, but it certainly can be if it's done properly, because it has the opportunity for that idea, that presentation that you put together, to not only touch the lives of the people in the audience, which could be 100 people or 1,000 people in that audience, but it has the opportunity to be uploaded online. And the real payoff is when that TEDx talk gets selected by the TED curation team, and they feature it on the TED.com website. So there's an opportunity that this talk that you present to 100 people could then potentially reach millions and millions of people. And I know for myself, just the credibility that goes along with having done a TEDx talk, and also having that footage, because every TEDx event is required to record, professionally record and upload that video to make it available to the public. Being able to show that on your website, which is something you would normally pay a videographer thousands of dollars for, you get that for free. But I've had a number of people come to my website, watch that video, and book me to speak, which is a $7,500 investment, without even speaking to me. Just directly through my business manager, because they've seen that video. And so it's not obviously just for business reasons, but the impact that you can have by getting your idea out there on a platform of people that are eager and excited to learn new ideas and put them into action, to me is just so juicy and so delicious. And I believe it should be for anyone who really is doing something that they feel is driven by a purpose, and they have a mission to make lives better. This is the right platform to get that message out there, because there's millions of people that are hungry for these new ideas, these big ideas that they can take and transform their own lives and use them in the service of others.
Yeah, I love that. I mean, there's multiple things going on. I think one question to ask yourself is, if you're watching this video, is would my credibility in my business go up if I have a video of myself speaking on a TEDx stage, right?
Yeah, absolutely. You'll spend thousands of dollars getting a videographer to record and shoot and package your video, and obviously you get that for free. And it varies from TEDx event, in terms of the quality of video. But when you really nail it, there's an opportunity for it to be spread out there and position you as an expert. All things being equal, if you have a prospect who's looking at you or your competitor and you provide the same service, and one has done a TEDx talk and the other hasn't, which one do you think the prospect is going to choose? Right? There's such an extra level of credibility and confidence that will be instilled in the prospect with the person who is associated with the TEDx brand.
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. So tell us something that people might not know about getting on or being on the TEDx stage.
I think I think there's two things. One is a lot of people think, oh, I need to be an excellent speaker. I need to be a professional speaker already. I need to be polished, and that is not true. In fact, it's often quite the opposite. TED actually has very clear guidelines that words like professional speaker or motivational speaker are kind of red flags to watch out for. So saying that you're a professional speaker can, depending on how you position yourself, actually be a black ball against you. So it's not being that expert speaker. TED is very clear that it's not about the speaker, it's about the idea. So you need to have an idea that can transform people's lives. And so the other thought or concern that will often come up for people is, yeah, but I'm not the expert. I'm not Brene Brown with a PhD and 20 plus years of research in a single field. And that isn't also, that also is not true. You don't have to be, a triple PhD world-leading expert in whatever your field is. You just have to have an idea that changes the way that people look at whatever it is that your industry, is, or whatever your idea is related to. And so, there are very popular talks, by a 13-year-old who has never been to school, right? For example, there's a very popular talk on, what I learned being a 17-year-old in jail. So these talks are coming from people that are not necessarily super educated or credentialed, but they do have a perspective that will help people change the way they see the world, and it can make the world and the community and individuals' lives better by introducing a new idea. And I believe that everyone can do that. That everyone has something that they can do, whether they're a roofer or it doesn't matter what your business is. It's about how do we introduce a new perspective into not necessarily what we do, but how we do it or why we do it. And when we can get clarity on that, everyday entrepreneurs just like you and me can reposition what we do in a new way to transform, uplift, and inspire individuals. And that's what the TEDx stage is all about.
Can you give me an example? I know your webinar is loaded with great examples, but let's just give a short example so people can get a sense of what you're talking about.
Yeah, that's a great one, and the webinar is loaded with case studies. But one that we actually talk about a lot here in the office is very, very simple. And someone gave a TED talk on the proper way to dry your hands. That after you wash your hands, that you can dry your hands using much, much less paper towel if you do it with this certain technique. And it's a very short talk, but if you learn this technique, you'll use much less paper. And so this is a very, simple, almost benign, thing. But when you start to look at it from a new perspective and realize that how many millions of us are washing our hands how many times a day, and how much paper towel are we using, and to look at the global impact, on all of the trees, in all the, the industry of using so much paper towel to dry our hands, you start to see that this small, tiny, novel thing actually becomes quite significant. It really does become a big idea that something as simple as changing the way you dry your hands can actually change the world.
Wow. And so this person had to also share the idea in a way that made it new, right? Unique or never thought of in that way before?
Yeah, and that's why, in the webinar we talk about this a little bit more. What are some different angles that you can look at what you do? What are some questions that you can ask yourself to find kind of a new intersection on what you do, why you do it, and why you're qualified to talk about it. It really is kind of finding a powerful balance, not necessarily having one magic ingredient.
Wow, that's so neat. Okay, so now I want to know a tip. Can you share with us a tip that people wouldn't know about how to get on the stage?
Again, really what it is about the idea. So it's not about being the polished speaker, but one of the things that we teach on the webinar is this magic formula that it's the intersection of your idea and why you're uniquely qualified to talk about it. So the place to start is really asking yourself, what is an idea that the world hasn't heard yet, but needs to? And again, it doesn't have to be what's a new invention or what's a new industry. It's about what's a new idea, what's a new perspective at looking at what you do or something out there that's commonplace. And how are you uniquely qualified to talk about it? And so there are a number of questions and exercises that we'll often do, and we talk about them in the webinar, for how to re-examine what you're doing through that bigger concept. And we talk about this big idea blueprint of how do you take what I do as a hairstylist or a car salesperson or whatever my role is, and put it through a bunch of criteria to come up with something much, much bigger, to see it through a new lens. And so that tip really, I would say, is to find that sweet spot of what's the idea that the world hasn't heard yet but it needs to, and why am I uniquely qualified to talk about it, and let them intersect. And that will be kind of the natural positioning of your idea worth spreading.
Okay. So now that makes me start to think about what's my big idea, right? What makes
Yeah.
it so interesting? What's a new idea? I'm sure that there's a way that I see things that I maybe haven't articulated yet. And that's what you teach
And
people?
yeah, and there's a formula that we cover in the webinar that really goes through the process of saying, how do you take that idea, look at it in a new way, and then there's criteria for judging if someone were to adopt this idea as an individual, how would it change their life? Would it change them as an individual? And then what if the whole world were to adopt this idea? How would it change the planet? Right? So if you can find a positive impact on both of those, you've got a foundation, for what could be a very powerful big idea. But so using this rubric, take for example the washing your hands, right? So you dry your hands and you lose less paper towel. Well, so as an individual, maybe that has a positive effect, but it's still small. It's not necessarily significant. But when you pair it up with what if everyone in the world were to think this way and behave this way, all of a sudden you can see that there are how many thousands of trees or how many hundreds of thousands of pounds of paper are reduced each year, and you can see essentially playing that idea out over full execution, by like full penetration. If everyone were to adopt this and behave this way, would the net impact be positive? And that it sounds simple, but it's actually a very powerful tool for seeing what your big idea is, because a lot of the ideas out there actually serve the few. A lot of what TED is looking for are ideas that serve the many. What are the things that will serve the planet together? And they don't have to be revolutionary technologies. They can be very simple things. Again, come back as simple as how we approach education, how we approach drying our hands, how we approach the food that we eat, etc.
Okay. Wow, this is amazing. So share with us how people can listen to your whole webinar or watch your whole webinar, and then who are the people that should definitely go watch it?
Yeah, so I'd love to make this available for your community here for free. And so the webinar is getonthetedxstage.com/Jennifer. And so if your crew will go there, we'll give them free access to the webinar, and they can watch the whole thing there.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
That is
You're
really
welcome.
kind of you. It's really good. Definitely watch it.
As you were mentioning earlier, it's very profound, even if you're not necessarily seeking to be on the TEDx stage, but to re-examine what you do through a new lens, and to position your idea in a way that it is a big idea. And by big, I don't mean like this moment of insight in the shower. We're talking about something bigger than ourselves. And when you look at the basic human drivers, people want to belong. They want to feel like they're a part of something bigger than themselves. And so if you can position what you do in a way that's bigger than yourself and bigger than other people, then people will unite around it. And that's part of the magic formula for starting a movement. The big idea is one of those pillars in starting a movement. So really, who is this for? It's for anyone really that is mission driven, that feels like they have a purpose, and that their business or their idea, even if it's not fully a business yet, has a positive impact on the planet. It's for people who want to be speakers, or maybe are speakers and want to take their speaking game or their speaking career to a new level. And it's for people that really want the added credibility, or possibly the added visibility of being on the TEDx stage, or even for anyone who's really just kind of wanting to position themselves in a new powerful way and develop the skills of presenting in a way that evokes emotion and gets people inspired to join the cause, because that's really kind of the TED mandate, is changing the world through ideas we're spreading.
Okay, this is really great. So the URL again is getonthetedxstage.com/Jennifer.
Jennifer. Yep.
And I think I should also mention that you should still watch the webinar, and you could even be on the TEDx stage, even like where I'm sitting, which is I have a mission, but I'm really, really not clear exactly what my big idea is. You don't have to know that right now. Just listen to the webinar. That can be developed, right?
Yeah, absolutely. As you said, just listening to the webinar that one time, you started getting that aha of, oh yeah, I can reposition what I do, because it's, I'm not just, helping people with high ticket selling. There's a bigger impact. And as we go through the exercises a little bit more, you'll start to see that, oh yeah, here's the bigger impact that I'm having potentially on the planet, not just on my client's life individually. And that's where things get really fun and really, really interesting.
I love that. And the other thing that I wanted to make sure we didn't skip over is that you don't even have to be a good speaker, right? Because the selection process is not about the speaker, it's about the idea. And then when you get selected, you get trained. When you watch a TEDx or a TED Talk, the speaker is so captivating. Well, guess why? They weren't born that way. They didn't, come in that way probably. Maybe a few of them did, but that's part of what you do, right? Is you train. Once they're selected, they become trained up, right, to make that talk good.
And as an event organizer, and even from TED headquarters, when there's an idea we're spreading, there's energy invested into making sure that it's told in a way that the point will get across and it will have maximum exposure. So yeah, absolutely. Anyone who's looking to develop their speaking skills, the perfect avenue for doing that. And I know, I even had the president of the Canadian Association of Professional Speakers did a TED Talk at the event that I was a co-organizer of, and she said it completely transformed her speaking career. And here's someone who already for 20 plus years had been a professional keynote speaker, making good money as a speaker, and it completely transformed her speaking career and her presentation. So if anyone's looking to up-level their game in that regard, there's no better avenue than the TEDx stage.
Okay, this is awesome. So anything else you want to share, Joseph, before we go?
Just that I love you, Jennifer.
Love you back.
I adore you, and I adore what you're up to, because you're empowering people who are passionate about what they do and have a way of serving to serve more. And that's really I believe that we all have this drive for significance. We all have a need to not only be a part of something bigger than ourselves, but to give back, and we want to have an impact. And when we listen to that inner whisper that says, yes, you can have an impact, and here's how to do it. When we obey the little whisper, we open those doors, and by selling better, by being able to reach people and really touch their hearts to get past some of the garbage and go deeper. I have such a tremendous respect for what you do and your clients that are investing in themselves to take those steps. And this is just another way of doing that, of increasing your impact so that you can serve more and leave that lasting impact on the planet and a legacy worth talking about.
Wow. Well, feeling is mutual. Thank you so much for being here today. Heart. Thank you so much, Joseph. And you guys, click the link, watch the webinar. There is here a little sneak preview, some more information about how you can learn even more from Joseph. But definitely, bottom line, go watch the webinar. You're going to really enjoy it. So, okay. Bye, everybody. Take care.